All right, we're live now. So just give me a minute, folks, while I put this into Books of Horror. Into Books of Oh, my phone's being loud now. I'll also tag you in the
Perfect.
post. So
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity because I'm really getting to know the group and it's been really fun. The last few months, I've been really trying to engage and just talk to more people and get to know them since I'm homebound, not just to promote my business or me as an author, but I've been finding incredible authors too. So I'm just really excited for the community. It's been amazing.
yeah, um, it's been really fun doing all these, like getting to know the people behind the books and things,
Mhm.
and like people that I don't know a whole lot like you. Like we've spoken, but very rarely. So getting to know you here tonight will be
Yeah, same.
exciting. All right, so we are live in Books of Horror.
All right.
All right, folks. I don't see anybody viewing currently, but I don't want you to introduce yourself if nobody's watching at the moment because I just got it into the group, so
Oh, yeah, it's fine. It's no
takes
problem.
it takes a little bit for people to populate in.
Yeah, I totally get that.
Um,
And do these record too or no?
yep, yep.
Yeah.
I using this streaming service. I'll be able to download these videos now that I switched over to this, and I have a YouTube channel set up. I just need to start uploading the videos. So I have the last three, I think,
Oh,
that
that's
I'll be
great.
able to. Yep. So, anyways, yeah, like I like the permanent feature of having those available for people to go back and watch.
Yeah, I really like it too because not everybody can watch live. So I never worry about how many people are watching then. Like even when I post lives on like Instagram, sometimes I only have 3 or 4 people, but then I see later there's like 500 views and I'm like, hey, 500 people enjoyed that. Great. So it's
Yep.
more like picking a time to record, then you can just put it up and you don't have to edit everything later. It's kind of nice.
Yep. All right. I see Holly Landis has joined us and said
Hi,
hi.
Holly.
Do you see her comment to the side there?
I do. Yeah, I did. That's really cool that it comes in right from Facebook. Hi, Holly.
All right. Now that we got some viewers, without further ado, please introduce yourself to everyone.
Yeah, hi everyone. It's Independent Bookstore Day, which is kind of fitting. I know RJ was going to have me on maybe in March for Women's History Month, but this worked out even better. My name is Stephanie Rose, and I opened up a bookshop in 2018, Death by TBR Books, but it was actually books around the corner, and we didn't really focus completely on horror. The horror kind of came with the name change, so just to kept getting darker and darker. First, I was like genre, and then this. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do full horror. And then I wrote my first book actually like 8 years ago, but got a lot of no's. And then stumbled upon a writer who was, putting out their own book and then said, hey, I'd love to put yours out too. And I was like, that would be great. And he had just come to an online indie bookstore. It was an online book exchange. That's how he found me. And I sent him my manuscript. And he's like, I love this. I want to publish it. And I'm like, okay. So it was a really new thing, but he did a great job. And then that kind of, I was like, yeah, I did that thing. That was going to be my bucket list. And then I wrote another book and now I'm on my third. So this is the one I wrote that's out now, Hiding Lies, which really funny. Some people have said it's a psychological thriller. In this group, they would probably say it's a thriller. I have had some people who are not as into horror say it's extreme horror, but after reading some of my first extreme horror recommendations from this group, I would say it's not extreme horror. And then this is my next book coming out in March of 2026, Small Town Slasher. And it's a slasher. It takes place in a rural town. It's for fans of Scream and My Heart is a Chainsaw. Definitely not to the scale of writing as SG J. I'm not there yet, but the meta, the style, the slasher love is there, and that's the part of it that's there. So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. So with a Small Town Slasher, is that going to be through a publisher or are you self-publishing that?
So I would say I am technically self-publishing, but I started my own indie press, which I'm not just going to be publishing my own. I'm actually have an open call right now for our first anthology that's going to come out 6 months after Small Town Slasher comes out. And that is open submissions and then also invited authors. So my hope is that every year I'll have 2 big releases, one possibly mine, and then one that's either a novel or an anthology with other people that I would be producing through the indie press. So I know a lot of indie presses have maybe more people with them, or they decide to do more titles. I really want to give all of the titles the time and the marketing and the promotion. And I think if you have less to focus on, you can just do a little bit more. And since it's only me, I don't want them to be like, oh, hey, I'm going to publish your book and good luck with promoting that. Like, I want to be able to put the time and the money and the effort into it. So I'm really excited. We have some big people involved in the Scary Stories to Tell in October, a Halloween horror anthology, which is what's open right now. The open submissions are still available until April 30th. And then we're having a diverse kind of 2 weeks of anyone that is represented from, like, whether they're disabled or neurodivergent or LGBTQ, they can have an additional 2 weeks to submit. But some of the authors we have are Clay McLeod Chapman. He's like one of our big ones, but we also have Lauren Hightower. I haven't announced her yet, but she has signed. Brianna Morgan. I'm definitely filling it with a lot of indies, and I'm so excited to look through these submissions so far. Some of these people have said they've never been published before, and like, I've been there. I'm a newer author, so just to be able to do that, I think is really fun. I have been a freelance writer, editor for over 10 years, but it was in entertainment. I was doing music photography and music reviews and things like that. Not really writing fiction. It was nonfiction, but still writing.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. Yeah. I don't know if anybody else is picking up on it. You have just a slight lag, so if I'm catching up to you, it's because of that. Like, I don't know if it's me or you or a combination of being on the streaming, but you was just getting a little bit of lag, so I was catching up to you. But yeah, like that open call ends very soon, folks. So if that sounds like something you would want to be in, definitely look up. Where can they find the guidelines for that?
deathbytbrbooks.com. And then there is at the top, it says press. So if they go right under that, they'll have all the information.
There you go. So we got to talk about that books for one thing, because I don't think it gets any better than Death by TBR. I think that's how we'll all go for sure.
Yeah.
So who gets the credit for that? Is that all you?
My partner and I were brainstorming names, and I had a few, and then I sent and did a poll actually through my followers on Instagram. And I don't even remember what the other ones were, but that was one of the main ones I really liked, but I wanted to give a couple other options since I was doing a name change. So it was the one I most likely wanted as well. And it's nice because I don't have to change the name for the press. I can be the same name under the same umbrella. So I would say it was me. I had a vision to use some of the original logo and then kind of make it darker and back to black and white, which was the original, because I think the logo has changed 3 or 4 times now. So my partner actually designed the latest logo, and then a friend of ours is a graphic designer, and she designed the one before then. So it's kind of a combination of those. But that's how I'm going to go. I mean, especially being a member of Books of Horror. I mean,
I know.
I was even in that group yet, and I was already saying it was death by TBR.
Yep. Yeah, like I mean there are definitely worse ways to go. So if when we all eventually um our TBR piles get topple over and kill us because they're so massive, that's my chosen death for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, death by TBR, bookstore, online bookstore. But is there a brick and mortar location that you have?
I had a brick and mortar from 2018 until maybe I think 2022. But my health issues got a lot worse and I became disabled. So I just kind of, instead of closing it up completely, I revamped the business plan and moved it online. And it's actually been really successful, which I'm really grateful for. So if I have a bad day and I have a flare up, or if I can't do any work a day, which you can't do in a regular job, I don't fulfill any orders that day. And people understand that because I still ship on a pretty good timeline. Things are a lot delayed right now, shipping wise across the country. So I'm not really concerned with that, but I've had nothing but great support from people as I transitioned online. But it was definitely a hard move. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it, but now it's the best decision I ever made.
Yeah, yeah. So if people were looking for one of the many awesome online book retailers, check
Mm-hmm.
out Death by TBR for sure. So
Yeah, we
let
get signed
me,
copies in, and I am trying to put more. The more I find in books of horror, I'll be completely honest, I hadn't read a lot of Nick Roberts. I knew of Exorcist House, I had that in stock, but I didn't look at the rest of his. I didn't know who Judith Sonnet was. And now I've gotten 4 or 5 orders for the home. And that's just because I put it up
yeah,
on the website. Like, I want to bring the people who maybe aren't in books of horror, who follow me maybe on Instagram. I want to bring these titles to their attention. So I'm trying to list more and more. I have a dedicated area in the beginning, right at the homepage. It says indie horror. So I'm adding more and more to that. I haven't done it all yet, but I'm pulling from the Brawlmost and then the Brawl list. Like, that's a good list to start with. Looking at the Books of Brew event, looking at those authors, making sure I have those books online. And, if people can order directly from the author, by all means, but I'm just trying to get their name out there a little bit more to other people, and then put their books in book boxes, because I do a horror book box every month, but it changes with the person. So if
yeah,
I know somebody I think is going to like, say, Judith or Duncan, or a zillion other people who are in the group. Those are just a few that comment a lot. So I see their names a lot. But I think it's really great that I can introduce them to a new author too. Because there is so many wonderful underrepresented indie authors out there that are just, it's like, as soon as you find them, you're like, how did I not know about this author? And then they have a backlist and you're like, yes, they have a backlist, which is great. So I'm really excited about that. And I've been very, very grateful to have that opportunity to find new readers. And of course I have my favorites, and they come out with new books every other year or so, the big ones, but it's nice to find smaller, less known authors who are just as talented or more.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of us agree with that. Like, plus it's there. There's maybe a little bit more hunger with the indies to try and get their name out. So yeah, they're going to put in the work, a lot of it too, because they're doing everything that
Yep.
it takes to put a book out to or not only just writing it but marketing it and cover and formatting and editing. So
Mhm.
yeah, so
No, and
the
this is the first book of Death by TBR Press too. So it's like I had to take off my writer hat, put on publisher hat, like, okay, how many copies do I want to get? It's a dual image. Actually, no one has seen this yet. They've only seen the cover reveal, but like the way I did it was so there's a knife on each
Oh,
side.
yeah, the knives coming in from each
Yeah.
side like that.
And it's a stock image that I purchased licensing for, but then I made it bigger and made it my own and did my own text on it because I wanted it to be a very simple 90s style horror. But I have it's an independent editor I found through Books of Horror. She's the one that edited it. Her name's going to be in the book. So, like I am trying to make sure if I am hiring anyone to help me, it's an indie person and it's no AI at all in anything I'm going to be doing. And, because I write, because I'm disabled, I don't want to take on too many projects, which is why I'm going to, I'm hoping to find a novel, have an open call for a novel maybe next year. But for this year, I'm going to focus on just doing the anthology and then go from there.
Oh, okay. So yeah, oh, it was weird. Like it jumped in time for me. So yeah, you're working on. Last I heard, you were working on the anthology, and then you mentioned you found your editor for that book and Books of Horror. Do you want to shout that person out?
Yeah, I actually don't know her full name off the top of my head. Hold on. Linda Hartley.
Linda Hartley. So
Yeah, she did.
if anybody,
I believe she's in the UK. So there was we went back and forth a little bit, but she did I had her do my developmental editing. And then also she did all the editing. And what I really liked about her was that she gave me positive feedback, but also things I could change. But she also put in there like, this made me laugh out loud, or I really like this part. And I just think that I've never really worked with an editor other than my first press. So, wanting to make sure it's a quality piece that goes out there. I think my experience as a bookstore owner, librarian for the last few years, I know what markets well. And that's a big part of what I know how to do. And it takes a lot of time as an indie, like you said.
yeah, it becomes a secondary full-time job when
Mm-hmm.
you're wearing all the hats like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you have your bookstore on top of doing the writing, and now getting into indie publishing with other folks. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like a lot of irons in the fire.
Yeah. Luckily, though, it's a lot of computer work, and that's something I'm good at doing at like 3 o'clock in the morning when I can't sleep or when I have a little spurt of energy. So, like, I've been making like as a huge Excel document with just podcasters, influencers, authors, and just started messaging them, and then wrote down like when I've talked to them. Am I going to send them an e-arc? Do they need a print arc? I don't want to give out too many, but I also don't want to deter someone from reviewing it if they need a print arc. So I've been doing that every single day. I message at least 3 people, whether it's like, ooh, I see this podcaster I've never heard of, screenshot, and then I go back and look at them later and I go, hey, you like slashers.
Yeah, yep. So the I'm trying to monitor and talk to you at the same time. It seems like it was glitching on Books of Horror, but if it does, I'll go back and watch the stream that we're doing now on the actual group, the one that's shared there. I'm just telling you, just between us, but I will upload this video again because I will have it saved because I just don't want people to miss out on this because it's very exciting. It's uh, very informative for people to know what goes in behind the scenes of just all the aspects of the book industry, like the indie. We'll say the indie book industry. So
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge thing that, as a newer author, when I was a bookstore owner with a brick and mortar, there are lots of, yes, like do's and don'ts of what indie authors do when they contact a bookstore. And
oh,
it's
yeah,
not hard to do it as if they do it the right way. But I've just gotten like just generic things from people like, I have a huge romance coming out next year. And I'm like, do you even look at what I have? Like, because, or
Not your
maybe I,
market. No, yeah. Know
right,
your market. That's one of the most important things as the indie authors. Know your market.
right. And some authors,
So
they may sell their own book. So they may not put a really high discount on Ingram, which is fine. That's their prerogative. They can do that. But I'm not going to bring a book in, but I'll list it on my website. If it's horror, I'll still list it. And then I can order it on demand, just like people would if they were an in-person bookstore. So I'm still putting them in a group. I'm still putting them on the website. And I think that's really helpful.
yeah, I'm still navigating the ins and outs of Ingram. I have maybe 3 out of the probably 18. I haven't counted. That's bad when you don't know how many books you have published. But 3 of them now are currently up on Ingram, and it's a slow. It's not a bad process, especially now because the way I understand from talking to people like Jay Bauer and stuff that they have really streamlined Ingram from what it used to be, especially getting your book uploaded to um, be able to sell to indie bookstores and stuff. So it's I'm still navigating those uncharted waters, but it's not terrible, or it's not daunting like some people might think. But Ingram, if you want to be in libraries or indie bookstores or some Barnes and Nobles will carry
Mm-hmm.
the indie books that the authors are putting out, but you have to go through the Ingram route because yeah, no, I maybe you could shed a little bit of light on it. Why do indie bookstores prefer Ingram over ordering from KDP? Is there a back channel through KDP where you would order, or do you just go on Amazon? You would have to order the book like everybody else.
We would indie bookstores are never going to want to order through Amazon because they're horrible to us, and a lot of people know why. And as an author, I know why authors
Oh
have
yeah,
to be on there. Totally get that. But we as bookstores can't order on there. We'd be ordering just like you. So
yeah,
a lot of authors have started to put their stuff on Ingram, and a lot of bookstores, they need to get a certain discount or it's not worth it to bring it in. So some bookstores, it'll say, like, if you're in Ingram, it'll say net. That means there's no discount for us. But if
yeah,
somebody came to me with a book, like say one of your books, and say you had just put it on there and you didn't put a discount for whatever reason, I would still put it up at your retail. I wouldn't make anything on it, but if they're a customer, that's still a courtesy for me to order it for them and to promote you. So not every bookstore looks at it like that. I do, but to have it in the store or to have it returnable. That's the biggest thing that I see, that if you don't make it returnable, you are way less likely to get a bookstore to bring it in. It's a
yeah,
way higher risk to do that because they can never, obviously return it. A way you can get around that is offer book plates. Offer to send book plates. If they put them in, then they won't return it. Then they can promote it that it's a signed copy. And some people just really like signed copies. So I have lots of little like tips and tricks of that, just because like I have a librarian hat, I have a bookseller hat, and now I have an author hat. Like I know the other side of it. I know, don't go into a bookstore with your book and try to talk to a bookseller. They don't want you to do that. They might be nice about it, but they don't want you're being a salesman. Email
yeah,
them first. Don't just give them your book. Ask them if they want your book. Would you
yeah,
list it? Consignment is even happening less than it used to as well. But if you do it the right way, you can be on their websites, and that's still helpful. Even if you're not on their shelf, or if you say, hey, will you give my book a chance if I send you one copy, and will you put it out and put it in your system? And they might do it, or you can just ask them to list it like I do. Now, I brought in a copy of a few authors from that I found in books of horror. I wouldn't say they're books of horror authors because they are authors, but they're ones I found that way. And I have them on the website. A few of them I've picked up because I've sold them more than once. So I'll be more likely to have it on hand. Um,
yeah,
and of course, if I've read it, I know not every author can afford it, but having an audiobook, I'm actually funding my own audiobook for my first book. And I'm doing a GoFundMe, but also just putting more of the money towards the press, towards that, and then towards the anthology and towards publishing in general. But I think just a lot of people have a lot of misinformation or no information. I had someone today who sent in a submission for the anthology, and they said, I didn't see anywhere to pay for this submission. And I'm like, what? The pay is what you would get if you're chosen. That's
Yeah.
not what you pay me. And I even said to them, if anyone ever asks you to pay anything for a submission, don't do that. And she's like, oh, okay, thanks. But she didn't know. And there are people out there who take advantage of that in authors, and it's really disheartening. And that's why I kind of decided to move forward with the press. That's a very new thing for me, but I do have a lot of connections in the field, and I've known a lot of people now, and I'm getting to know even more now, which is really exciting. So I think the horror community, it's small and it can be drama. There's a lot of drama going on right now. I'm not going to discuss any of it, but then there's also a lot of people out there who are super supportive and are there for each other. And I think right now in our country, we really need that. And we really need these gross, scary, spooky stories to get us out of the really scary world we're living in right now. So
Yeah.
I finally read my first extreme horror and I'm like, yep, not thinking about the world after reading that.
Yeah. There's an old, like, watching the generations of horror writers that came before the current people that are still active today, but listening to them talk over the years, they always say when we get into trying times like we are, horror will thrive because it's a reflection of the world around us.
Mm-hmm. It absolutely is.
Yeah. You everything you just said, like, you gave the indie authors who don't know as much and would happen to watch this a few little tips and tricks and pointers that they should take to heart. Absolutely.
And I'm always
So,
happy to answer questions for anyone if they want to email me. Just if they ever, I'm not saying I know everything by all means. I mean, there are certain people in the group who have been doing this longer than me, but maybe they weren't a bookseller. Like I go to Nick Roberts if I have a quick question because he's wonderful about responding on the business end of things, like doing it myself. He's the one I go to for that. But if somebody wants help with like maybe how they approach a bookstore, Nick would know that, but I might know it a little bit differently, just different because I've worked both sides. And I don't know, who knows? Nick could have been a bookseller at one point. I don't know his history, but I do have a lot of knowledge that I want to share with people and not like, hey, sign up for something and you get it. And like, no, if someone has a quick question about, hey, how would you approach this bookstore or whatever, I'm happy to help because I wouldn't be where I am. And I'm still young in my career of writing, not in my career of life, but I'm really grateful to the people who have helped me and been there in the field, or I wouldn't be where I am today. So
yeah, I think that's really prevalent, especially in the indie horror community, because everybody knows, everybody's in their various stages of their career, but everybody knows what it took for them to get there. So they are more than willing to usually offer advice on just about anything, so that the people that are just starting out or learning can succeed. Like, we say it all the time, but yes, we want to see everyone succeed because at the end of the day, we're all doing the same thing, and you should be cheering, your brothers and sisters writing books along with you. You should be cheering them on.
that's a great way to say it. Absolutely.
So, I'm just going to step out on the conversation for a moment and say, if there is anybody watching, please drop your comments in, or drop your questions in the comment, and we will get to them. But we may have touched on this a little bit, but for those who might tune in now, what got you started on your writing journey?
I was having a really rough time adjusting to moving out to the Pacific Northwest. I was living in New England and we had just relocated, and I had just gotten my master's degree in library science. And I couldn't find a full time job, and I was getting really depressed, and my anxiety was getting worse. And really, on my bucket list was to write a novel. And in one summer, I just had this idea and I just ran with it. And I finished the book in like 3 months over the course of that summer. I got it edited. I sent it to beta readers. This is before I was in the community at all. So I was just like any other author, like, what do you do first? And had it professionally edited and then started querying it. And a few asked for full manuscripts. Most of them said no. The one that did want a full manuscript, the reason why they turned it down is they said the killer's behavior they thought at times was unrealistic, which I think is really funny because I'm a huge true crime nerd, and I actually created the profile of the killer in my first book off of 3 or 4 serial killers who are real. You can actually look up FBI vault files and look up really old cases and like look at case notes and stuff, which made me want to write the case notes part of that book. So I finished that. I'm like, cool, I did it. Nobody wanted to nobody wants to publish it right now. So it kind of went into a metaphorical drawer. And then as I became a bookseller, that interaction happened with Joey Powell of Mad Axe Media, and book was published. And then even 6 months, one of my friends, Jen, she reminded me, just 6 months ago in interviews, I was saying, yeah, I'm not going to write anything else. Yeah, I'm not going to write anything else. And then the election happened and I could not process it. And so I wrote Small Town Slasher. I just really wanted to kill a lot of people, and I was able to do so through a killer in the book. So it's a lot
Yeah.
of rage. It's a lot of really fun. There's so many Easter eggs for Scream fans, especially, and it was very cathartic. And then after that, I waited a few weeks. Then I was like, ooh, I have another idea. I guess I'll start on that. And then so I was like, I guess I'm a writer now. And yeah, I think it's really helping me, my mental health too, a lot of being able to process a lot of the trauma I've been through and a lot of things I've just gone through in my life that I continue to work through and have to live with as well.
Yeah, I think for people that don't write, they don't realize how cathartic it can be for the person to, exercise their own demons or really relieve stress or tension that's built up over the years or whatever's going on in their life. It often bleeds into the writing. So yes, I feel you there 100%. But with the, I want to step back to the serial killer profile that they said wasn't wasn't realistic enough. Is that Hiding Lies?
That's Hiding Lies. Yeah.
So, um, um, well, did you change anything, or did you just say, um, no, this is the story I wrote?
If they had asked me to do some edits, I would have definitely considered it, but they didn't give me any kind of, hey, we want to do this if we work on this. It was more of just a general feeling they got from it that they didn't think the killer's behavior. So all of the kills that have happened in Hiding Lies have happened in real cases,
Yeah,
and I just connected them with a fictional killer with different vibes to them, sure, but it has some dark scenes. It has a lot of trigger warnings in the beginning, so it's not, and that's why it's hard. It leans towards thriller, but it has horror elements. So I do still feel like it's a thriller horror, I think, or it's a what they call it, like dark fiction. But I
yeah,
definitely would not say it's like a traditional mainstream thriller. It's definitely like more hardcore than that. But is it horror? I mean, that's subjective. Is this horror? Yes. Like I 100% would say yes. For that
yeah,
one, I'm like, it has some crime. It has a protagonist that's a forensic photographer. That's more common in thrillers than horror. So if you go by the formula, then it's more thriller with horror elements. So I definitely am proud of it. And I've had a lot of feedback that between book 1 and book 2 that my writing has improved a lot, and that means a lot to me, because there's a lot more characters in my second book, and then I'm going back to being only like 1 or 2 characters, and that's just the way it's going to fall with this next book. There'll be little characters here and there, but there was definitely more characters to keep track of in Small Town Slasher, because a lot of people have to die. You got to have it be a respectable body count if you're going to write or watch a slasher.
That's true. You got, yeah, that's then eventually you'll have that idea for Small Town Slasher 2, and then you just gotta up the ante and double the body count, and it gets to be an avalanche of bodies just hanging around the small town everywhere. But yeah, I think I have yet to meet a person that has been like, I really don't like slashers. Like that's kind of like, I mean, it's popcorn for horror enthusiasts. It is the bread and butter. It's what we all grew up on, especially with the movies and stuff like the slashers, the cheesy 80s, 90s slashers. And yes, Scream reinvigorated that genre when Wes Craven did it. So like
Mm-hmm.
that was a dead genre in film, and he did Scream, and it's been full force ever since. But I think everybody can appreciate a good slasher, and just like Holly Landis says, I can actually pop it up on our screen for us. She says, "I can't wait to check out your book. Scream is my favorite movie franchise, so it sounds up my alley."
Oh man, Holly, I'm gonna actually. So one of the things I'm considering doing, because one of my favorite authors did it, and I bought it. Hers was for a charity after the fires in California. I would just be doing it for funsies because I love to do things that take forever to do. But I actually might annotate a copy and do a giveaway for it of just like all of the references, because like there's even her name, the character's last name is Wilcott.
Oh
So
yeah.
Prescott Williamson Wilcott. Like there's stuff like that people probably won't pick up on, or some random thing that someone says. And I'm doing something that, and the reason why I pull in Stephen Graham Jones for this one is just because of the meta part. Because there's a lot of slashers, and then Scream did it different. They're like, hey, we're going to call all these ridiculous rules out. We're going to do this. And I do that in this. There's a part where 2 of my characters are in a car, and it's a cop car that ends up finding them, luckily, but he wants to go back to where the killer might be. And they're like, hey, let's go to the hospital. And one of the characters is like, haven't you seen a slasher? Do you know what happens to you in a slasher if you just go right back there? I mean, come on, think of any kind of scene
Yep.
like that. I know what you did last summer, Scream 2. There's so many, like, you don't do that. So there's a lot of calling out of the things like Randy. And you're either going to like that or you're not. And if you're not into that, cool, no problem. I'm not going to each their own. But if,
Yeah.
and also I wanted to write something a little lighter than Hiding Lies. I want people to know I've changed a lot. Like this is a very weird writing journey for me, because this was written 8 years ago and this was written last November. And then my book now is being written right now. So this kind of more feels like a first book. And my book that I'm writing now feels more like a second, because this has been in it's been off my plate for so long. So I'm very happy it's in the world. I'm grateful. And I actually got a special edition through Twisted Retreat. I got it framed because I was so proud. And that's my first book, and I got a special edition, which is insane. So I'm so grateful for the people who read it and who are excited to read my second book. And then the third book is very different as well. I'm not quite sure exactly how it's going to go yet, but it's going to be taking place most likely in a hotel, and it's going to have some type of found footage aspect to it. But that's all I want to say about it so far right now.
Right. Yeah, that's fun. And it's fun to show your range as an author. Like, yeah, every book you want to grow,
Mm-hmm.
but you also don't want to get pigeonholed into having a specific niche. So getting to jump around and play with very different ideas is very alluring.
Yeah, and
So,
and I think about it now, I'm like, will I go back? Like, will I write this next book and be like, no, I'm a slasher girl? Because then we have people in our group that, I mean, if you say their name, you think slasher, or you think whichever, you think of
oh yeah,
whatever type of, and they like to write that, and that's what they write. And I'm like, cool. I just don't know who that is for me yet. So I'm like, well, I don't want to pigeonhole into slasher yet. I want to try something else and see if I like the writing aspect of it. And if I don't think it's as fun, I'm gonna go back to stabby and accent and stuff, because I do like a lot. I like a lot of different horror. It's just, am I gonna like to write a lot of different horror as much as I watch it? And for me, one of my big parts of my writing process is watching a lot of movies in that genre. I watched 80s, 90s genre, 80s, 90s slashers. I went back and watched the first Peeping Tom, and I watched everything in between. And I probably watched the Scream franchise a dozen times at least. And I take little notes of just like, ooh, I like that scene. I'm going to take something like that, but make it different. And then I also read a lot of it too, but I like my books to feel cinematic, and I want them to. So I hope that I captured that, because that's what I really was hoping for. And that's why it's coming out March 3rd. Since I'm the publisher, I get to pick the date. So and I did actually get a lot of choice in the date for my first book. He was very nice about that. Next time, I will not make a book launch close to Halloween, because it's my favorite time of year, and I should have spaced out two things, but that was on me, not him. This is coming out the Tuesday after the new Scream comes out. So that was kind of on purpose, of just having it be this like really fun celebration of the franchise coming back, and also, my love letter to Kevin Williamson. I would just give him the rights to my book. Be like, hey, if he was going to make a movie, I'd be like, just take it, please. I mean,
yeah,
put my name on it, please. Give me credit, but just let me be on set. I'll be your assistant. You can, like, yeah, because I grew up with all of his movies and shows. I was a huge Dawson's Creek fan when I was growing up. I Know What You Did Last Summer is one of my other favorites in the 90s. So he's definitely had a huge influence on my writing, on what I read and write. So,
yeah. Plus, I mean, it will be fun to come up with various marketing gimmicks to be around when that Scream movie drops too,
mhm,
because you're right there with it.
yeah.
But I have to jump out of order because we kind of veered into one of my later
Mhm.
questions, but it says, what type of subgenres do you tend to write in? Which we've covered the few of them, but the second part to that question is, what subgenres of horror are you interested in writing in the future, or you know, which one are drawing you, that, or which ones draw you, and which ones do you want to write in that you haven't actually touched on yet?
Hmm. I'm kind of
That's a good
combining a little. I'm kind of combining a little bit of paranormal and like haunted house vibes with this next book. Like, it's found footage isn't, that isn't a genre, it's a style of writing. So, like, and I know you know that, but like, I'm looking at doing a kind of supernatural story of something paranormal, and I know paranormal supernatural can mean, different things. So I think doing this is definitely something I want to do. Other than that, there's more genres that I just don't want to do than probably I do. Like, I probably will never write extreme horror. I don't think I could handle it. Um, I wrote scenes probably of extreme horror, and that was hard enough. I don't think I would be good at writing fantasy horror, or cosmic horror, as people call it, just because I'm not very well versed in fantasy, and it's harder for me to understand that. I think if I wanted to try another genre, it would be, it's a newer term, but cli-fi or sci-fi, like sci-fi horror, something in the dystopian realm of horror.
Yeah.
That would definitely be where I would go. I just don't really want to do it right now. One, because I'm not there, but also because I want to see where I'm going to be when I'm writing that book. Because now I'm like, okay, I'm writing the third book and I'm liking what I have. I want to stick with this. But I think I would probably say, um, cli-fi or sci-fi, just because I don't know a lot. I read some sci-fi. My partner, that's his top genre, so I definitely have more knowledge than maybe the average horror fan does, who doesn't read at all any. But I do really like sci-fi. I would probably stick away from space because I just like the science part of it, but like dystopian or something like, we're getting a lot of books like about mushrooms and like insects and stuff. Like I'm very scared of spiders and creatures. So things like that creep me out. So I'm like, maybe I'll, try to write a book about it. But then I'm like, I don't know if I could do it justice if it already scares me that much. So I'm
Yeah.
not sure. That's a hard question. I really don't know. I know it's all these subgenres, but I'm not sure other than those which ones I would go for next.
I was literally talking to someone earlier today about writing. I am deathly afraid of spiders as well. And my wife points out, well, you wrote a book about a spider. And I was like, well, I was tackling my fears writing that. So that might be, I mean, that's a thing you can do. Like, what scares you, it's bound to scare someone else in the world. So if you do, want to tackle that subject, then you're almost guaranteed to know how to affect that person in your writing. So that's one thing to think about when
I
you
did I did see the two movies that came out last year that were spider heavy. I saw I think Infested was it, and Sting. Sting
yeah.
was scary, but Infested was scarier to me. And when I watch those movies, I watch them and I don't look away, but I scream. But like I don't full out scream. It's like these little and I don't know if I could do that writing. I'd be like, I can't read it. Like I don't even know how to write it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, maybe after I'm done with this book, I'll want to write another slasher. Who knows? I have to read some Alan Shivers. I have to read some. Oh, she just came out with a book. I don't know if proper pronouns because it could be they. It has a canoe. V.S. Lawrence.
Yes, Lawrence.
Yeah, I mean, those are authors that they seem, at least from what I've seen from their titles, they do a lot of slashers or they enjoy slashers. So I'm like, who knows? Maybe I'll go back to a slasher. Some people think I should do some type of second book or novel or follow up to this, whether it's like another printing later on where I add a couple chapters in of like an epilogue, or do I do a full sequel, or do I do a novel or a novella? I don't know. Do
Yeah.
you know what you're going to write like 2 or 3 books out, or what you want to write next?
I have a huge document of just ideas.
I love
So
that.
it wavers in and out for me of, do I want to do this one? But this one's been in my mind and I can't get it out. And then finally it'll subside and another idea pops up and I have to go and write that down. So you, as a writer, it's all timing, you know, like, and you have to be feeling what you're writing or it's going to show in the book itself. Like if
Absolutely.
you're not there with the story, it's going to suffer. So
Mhm.
you need to you need to recognize that for yourself and you need to adjust accordingly. So if you need to put it on pause because I promise you when you pick it back up and you're in the right mind frame to write that story, it will be a better book for that.
Well said.
So absolutely. All right. So um is there any advice you received that helped you when you first started out? And then is there a second separate piece of advice you would like to tell others to help them?
Hmm. I think one of the things that you just said is something that somebody told me recently, is that it's okay to put something down. Like, if you're not feeling it, put it down, whether you have another idea or not. I went through a really bad depressive episode for a few weeks. So I wasn't writing. I'm like, maybe I just don't like this story. But then when I kind of came out of that again, I felt, oh, okay. Or I reworked it a little. And then I'm like, I think I really like this idea now. I don't full out outline, but I do want a general kind of bones to the story before I would start like actually writing. Like I always have a couple scenes in mind, but I'm like, is it going to work in this story? So I would say that have a schedule for writing, but it doesn't matter what it is. Like it could be 10 minutes a day. Like if you want to start making a schedule, like it's important to write regularly, but regularly is subjective and it depends on what your situation is. Somebody who has no kids, who's homebound like me, who has furry animals, might have a little bit flexier of a schedule than somebody who works full time, who has kids and a family. So I think just get into that. And imposter syndrome is a bitch. And for my advice, it would just be that you are good enough to write because you have ideas and you want to write them down. You're writing for you first, for everyone else second. And at times I forgot that. And when I remembered that during times where I doubted myself with this second book, I was like, I love this book. There's parts of this book where I can actually say, I love this part. I can't say that about all of it because I'm like, yeah, I'm still, part of me is always like, I'm not a good writer. And yeah, but then sometimes I'm like, damn it, I am good and I'm learning and I'm getting better and I'm not great, but I'm not bad. And I'm putting stuff out there that's entertaining people. And that brings me joy. So I think just try to calm the imposter syndrome that most people have and just write. Write whatever it is you want to write and then figure the rest out after.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how other people would feel about this. I feel that if you get that imposter syndrome creeping into your mind, maybe pause what you're working on and write something else. That's a piece of advice I always give to people. But write something else that you absolutely do not intend people to read at all. And then it may help you get over that imposter syndrome because you will have a produced work that you can go back and read. You'll always be your worst critic, but you can see that yes, you can do this. So a lot of writing has to do with your headspace. So you have to be in the right headspace for whatever project you're working on. So that would be like, and when people say they get stuck or something, like if they're writing a story, let's say they're getting a novel, starting out with a novel is pretty daunting. Like it's a whole ass book. Like I started on short stories and stuff, and that's kind of my bread and butter, short stories. But when people say they get stuck, they hit that writer's block, I say switch tracks. If you're stuck on this story, start another story. And then as you're progressing through that, your mind will work out the problem you were having with that first story and you can go back to it.
That's really good advice.
They're writer's block and then imposter syndrome, you can overcome those as long as you have the right attitude and the right knowledge. I don't think anybody's immune to it whatsoever. Like writing is something you cannot master. You will always improve it with every project you complete. So if you're doing that, it's always a progressive. So you can never master it. So don't beat yourself up if you don't think it's the best thing in the world, because get the story written and then find you an editor and they will help you work out any problems that they see with the story.
Editors are incredible.
But the one thing that an editor can't fix is an unwritten story. So at the end of the day, the most important part is to get that story written.
Heck yeah.
You're clairvoyant or something, because you actually touched on another your last answer. You touched on another one of my questions later on, which is, are you a plotter or a pantser or a hybrid of both? And it does sound like you do both.
Yes, with Hiding Lies being written so long ago, I was a pantser, definitely on that one. With Small Town Slasher, I had a scene and I had an idea, and then I realized, oh no, this can't be a whole book, but I want this to be in the book. So then that became writing around that scene. And then I actually went back and then started at the
Uh,
beginning.
something's yeah, my connection's being weird tonight for some reason.
I don't think it's mine, but it could be.
All right. It might be mine. Like I said, I'm in a new location from where I'm normally at. So, where were you? Where did you leave off with the plotter and pantser question?
I said that for Hiding Lies, I definitely pantsed on that. But for Small Town Slasher, I wrote a scene of the book, but then I knew it wasn't long enough to be a novel. So I went back and kind of worked that way, had kind of a half-page idea, and then wrote from the beginning on from that.
Yeah.
And then it built the story as I went along. I always left with the next scene in mind. I didn't have to be 5 scenes ahead, but I had to at least have a few ahead where I could be like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to work on this scene and this scene. And then I would keep going. But I never had like a full out outline. This story that I've started this time, my third, I started with like trying to do a hardcore outline, and it's just not me. I can't do it. Like it's just, but I do want to know like motivation a little bit, like making sure that I don't have any big holes with my, at least my sketch of what it might be. And then doing that, I have actually already found a few things that I've changed, and it will change again and again. Like anytime I go back and look at the first thing I wrote of like a version or even a story idea, I'm like, oh my God, that changed so much from what originally it was going to be, which is exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, like I've never plotted anything out, and that's why I amended that classic question of pantser or plotter to include a hybrid, because I believe I'm kind of a hybrid. When I sit down to type, I pants, but when I go into a writing session, I have all these mental bullet points that I want to hit that I've been thinking about in between writing sessions. So in a way, I have parts of it plotted out like you said you do as well. Maybe a scene or two from where you left off, but I don't write anything down and I have no rigid structure for the story that I want to write. I leave it all open to come what may when I do start typing. So it does sound like you and I um, are very similar in that sense. So I I have met a few hardcore plotters in my time. I think Ben Young is one of them. Just disgusting. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how they get it out of bed at night with that outline weighing them down. But yeah, like that's a question that I like to ask the authors I have on here because it's so interesting to hear what everyone else does in their writing. So it sounds like you have tried both, and one seems to not be so much for you. So
I scribble ideas. So I was working out the idea for book 3. And when I say the idea, I have to have a tangible idea of where I think it might go. Even if it changes, I have to know kind of what's going to happen in the beginning, middle, end. And then I have to fill in a little of it. So I'm sitting there and kind of bouncing ideas off my husband, and I'm writing, and I'm like, wait, hold on. And I wrote, I'm like, yep, I'm making all these noises, and I'm like, it's done. Okay, cool. And he's like, I don't know how you do that. I'm like, well, it's not done. He's like, no, I know that, but your idea, you just did like basically your idea, and you just said to me what you think the book is going to be with lots of character detail. How did you just do that? I'm like, well, and it's not done, but like it makes me feel so much better because I took a night off. I was like happy. I was like, okay, I'm excited to go back to this project. I'm not like, I'm early in this project and I'm not in the middle of it. And I always think it's easier to come back in the middle of something than to just end a scene. I like to end so I can come back and jump right in, not be like, where am I going to pick up now? If I'm in that point in the book still, then I'm a little bit more nervous. And it's still, again, I wouldn't have wrote this in 2 months. I was writing like two to 3,000 words a day, like a hard schedule, because I wanted to try to make sure it would get out by March of 2026. So
Yeah.
it was, I wrote a lot, and I wrote it was like a little under 2 months, but I was writing a lot every day, and I needed to write every day to get through November, December. So it worked for me. So if I had been, I would have taken that long to write the damn outline,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and then you might write quicker overall if you have an outline, if that works for you. But for me, I spent like 2 weeks trying to write an outline, and I'm like, I could have just written a whole bunch of stuff and figured it out later. And that's why I'm like kind of going back to that. But I always have a small notepad with me if I get like an idea, and I'll write a few words, but I don't consider that outlining. That's just like, I really want this scene in my book somewhere, or
Yep.
something. I see it and I'm like, yes, that. But that's not plan. I can't plan it out like that. I can't have an outline. I'm not in school. I feel like it's too academic for me because I have 2 master degrees, and I'm like, I had to do so many outlines, and I just don't want to
Yeah.
approach creative writing like that. And again, nothing wrong with it. There's lots of planners, like you said, but not me.
Dredging up that PTSD of ghosts of years past with the outlines.
Yeah.
About how many words? What's the roundabout word count on Small Town Slash?
Around like 76,000.
Yep. So
Yeah.
if you were hitting 2,000 to 3,000 words a day in 2 months, getting that wrote in 2 months, that you was busting your ass getting that written.
It's 268 pages. This version is, but it's probably going to be a little longer. But it's 294 pages, but it's about 76,000 words. I think it was 80 because my goal was to hit 80. Because my last book, some people even said they thought it was like closer to a novella, and I'm like, it's 230 words. It's not a novella, which is fine. I'm not against novellas, but I'm like, that's not a novella. But with Small Town, I think about 3,000 to 4,000 words got gutted, like through editing, which is fine.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
And she was really funny. Like the stuff she's like, you talk about this part way too much. I'm like, all right, yeah, get rid of it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm paying you for. You make the hard cuts so I don't have to, because they're good at that, and I trust this editor now, and I want to work with her again.
Yeah. And you said she was in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
You're over on the Pacific coast.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a huge time gap between y'all, because like I've talked to people on lives here with the UK, and then talking to you, I'm on the East Coast,
Right.
and we're 3 hours apart, so it's
Right.
7 o'clock for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's 10 o'clock for me at night.
You,
but
yeah.
So 5 hours ahead from me, and you doing the editor, I'm really glad it worked out for you. Like, I know it's mostly through, dropping comments or leaving emails and communicating electronically. But yeah, like when you find somebody like that, an editor, that's very invaluable. And especially if they understand your writing. Like
Mm-hmm.
if they can see the vision that you're seeing, but they're going to also look at it through an eye that is critical. Like that's really good.
And she also said she loves slashers. And that was the deal breaker. There was a few people I was considering, and they all did great work. It wasn't like I was like, oh, I guess I'll go with her. No, I mean, they were all great. But one of them in particular was like, I love slashers. I love to read them. I have edited them before. I'm like, take it. Like, that's hands down the most important part of this book, is that it captures the formulaic kind of story of a slasher and the appreciation of 80s, 90s slasher. So, and she was all aboard that. She really enjoyed it, but she also gave it a lot of really great critique. And I can take criticism if I'm given like, tangible criticism, things I can change, things I can work on. And I've gotten that from readers, and I've gotten that from writers, and that's how I'm going to get better. I mean, I'm not in school for this. I'm going to keep reading and keep writing, and that's the two biggest things you can do is read and write, and I do both a lot. So
Yep. That's a piece of advice. My blurry. Okay.
just for a
That's a,
second, you
that, that's a great piece of advice for people to listen to if they want to do this writing thing. Read and write. Like a lot of people fail to remember that you were probably a reader first. So once you start writing, you can't forget to keep reading because you're going to read something out there that has never been written before, and it's going to help your imagination, spark new ideas for you, things that you can do. But you get to see where everybody's at in their writing. And I don't know about you as a writer, but I feed off other writers' energy when they get excited about things. That makes me excited about things. So
No, I definitely agree with that. Actually, when I was just doing the bookstore, I interviewed a lot of authors, which is probably why I'm answering some of your questions before you're asking, just because it's stuff I think about a lot. Not,
yeah,
I swear I don't have your questions in front of me. No, but a lot of I also listen to a
no, I
lot of
don't send them to
interviews.
anybody.
What?
Yeah, I don't send them to anybody
No.
beforehand because I want them to be almost off the cuff and natural responses. I don't want a well thought out response. I want you in the natural, like when I speak to people in these lives.
Yeah. But that's why I watch a lot of interviews with authors, and I listen to a lot of podcasts, especially Books in the Freezer and Talking Scared, because they have such great interviews, and what the authors end up saying is just so helpful as well. Um, so between that and also because I want my books to be very cinematic, I watch a lot more movies than I read books, obviously because of time as well. But I do audio a lot, so that helps. But
Yeah.
between all of that, it really, I think, helps definitely my writing. If I wasn't reading or watching anything, or since I wrote Hiding Lies to Small Town Slasher, I can imagine how many books I've read since then, um, and things I've seen.
Yeah. Like and everything it's everything is the experience that you are going to carry and um it's whether intentional or not, things like that will influence you as a writer, but it's never going to be say like um a direct core or a direct influence. It's always going to be something in your mind that has twisted it and made it your own and given it your own voice. So consume the media and then see what comes of it from your own perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, like you said, you watched how many slashers and stuff while you were working on Small Town Slasher, and
Mm-hmm.
you watched Scream so many times, taking little notes because it's almost like a case study. That's pointing back to Hiding Lies.
Yep.
So you're your own character. See?
I think we all write our little bit of ourselves, whatever it is at the time we write it. I mean, I don't know a
Yep.
protagonist someone has written that isn't even a little bit of them. I mean, if they do, good for them, but that I can't do it. I have to be in the mind of my MC. I mean, at
Yep.
least in some way.
It's impossible for a writer not to bleed on the page a little bit, like
Mm-hmm.
so. Um, I think this might be the final question until before we get into the closing, but we touched on it a little bit in the beginning of this live, but what has been the biggest surprise to you after joining the horror community? And that can be the writing, the reviewing, or anything else that you would like to point out.
I think just how many people out there are as weird as me and excited as me. There's all these memes out there for people that go, this is me watching a horror movie or reading a horror book, and there's just this in my family, my friends, like there's not as many people that read and watch horror. So finding a huge community online and like there it's not like I read horror. It's like I read horror and I watch it all the time and I'm so excited about it. And it's my life and it's who I am. That it's great. I'm the crazier the book, the more I recommend it. And then people are like, why'd you do that to me? And I'm like, because I had to read it. I read it and it haunted me. So now it has to haunt you. That's how it works. So I think just having so many people out there that you can relate to, I think everybody's a little quirky and out there if they love horror as much as the people in our group and just in general in the horror community read and write.
Yep. You find your tribe.
Mhm.
And you get to maybe you don't get to experience that in your everyday life. So if you find the people online that are just as enthusiastic with the things that you love, it's like finding the second family or something like
Mhm.
that. So yep, absolutely agree with you there. Well, Stephanie Rose, it has been amazing getting to talk to you and pick your brain on a few things that you have taught me on the bookseller side of things. But please tell the people um, what you have coming up in the future. We have discussed that, but anything you can that you haven't touched on that you want to let them know about what you're working on, touched on that. But reiterate for those that may be tuning in late, and then tell the people where they can find you online. So, what you're working on, where they can find you, all the socials.
Yeah. Hiding Lies out now. Small Town Slasher on March 3rd, 2026. E-arcs you can request on my link tree, which is on my bio. Um, print arcs are going to go out. There was a printing error, so they're going to be delayed, but that's why I tried it early. I'm working on my third book now. I'm not sure when it's going to be out yet, but it's found footage. It's being told in the style of found footage. It's going to take place in a hotel and have a paranormal theme to it. And then also, I'm working on the first anthology for Death by TBR Books, the press side of things. So that will be Scary Stories to Tell in October, a Halloween horror anthology, and that will be out next August. Not this August, but next. So we're giving authors enough time to write the stories, also for the submissions for me to read through all of them, which I'm so excited. I've gotten over 50 submissions now, and for being a new press, I think that's really good. I'm happy with that. I don't know what's a good number, so I'm just like, that's great. That's more than what's going to go in the book, so that's even better.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that, but they are still going to be open. The shorter, the better, I will say. If anyone's reading this who wants to submit, I want the feeling of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I want those short 1 to 3 page even stories that stick with you, like Girl with the Green Ribbon or Harold or The Big Toe. Those stories we read as kids that we shouldn't have been reading as kids and scared out of us. So I'm really excited to be able to be a good platform for diverse and starting out authors and mixing those with indie authors and then a few, even bigger authors for popularity reason, not for talent. But you know what I mean? Like if you get a couple people on board on an anthology, you can put somebody in front of someone else who maybe they wouldn't have found their work. And that's exciting to me too, to be able to help on that side of things.
Yep. Absolutely.
And so it's Death by TBR Books is my Instagram handle. Stephanie Rose Writer is on the writer side, and Stephanie Rose Author on TikTok. But yeah, all that's on my website, Death by TBR Books, and StephanieRoseWriter.com.
All right. Perfect. So, as I always say to my guests, you are more than welcome to come back on here, especially around March of next year when you are dropping your next book, and we can talk about that and anything else you want to.
I would love that because I'm going to be scheduling a virtual tour. So since I can't go on tour, I'm going to be having some podcasts drop that week and trying to set up some interviews and stuff that are virtual to kind of still have a feeling of a tour and celebrating that, not just the release date, but hopefully to extend it out a few days after too. So that would be great. It's been really great to chat with you too. And I would like to ask, if I were to read one of your books, since you have so many out, which one would you recommend? Because I have not read your work and I want to.
So, in my opinion, this is my opinion. If somebody asked me if they're new to my work, I would point them in the direction of a short story collection because you are going to get a wider range of that author and their writing styles. So I would say I just released FAFO. I think it was on March 7th. That's my second short story collection. And I think it is some of the best work that I've done so far because I have my original short story collection, the first one, which is Pieces of Me. But with those stories, I was learning to write. So I was growing with each story. So pound for pound, I think the stories in FAFO are the better of the two uh, short story collections. So I always point people towards short story collections, especially if they're a new to you writer, to get
Okay.
their range and showcase their talents. So FAFO.
All right. I will definitely check that out then. Thank you so much for
Oh,
having me. I really
I
appreciate it.
got it. I love talking to you. So absolutely, please let's do this again in or February, March, whenever you want to. You say you're doing your press tour or your
Mhm.
virtual tour for
Yeah.
your book. Absolutely. So let's do this again. And I'll
Awesome.
probably think of a million questions as soon as we end this about the book selling side of things. And I'll be like, I'll
I
probably
mean,
be
we're on
bugging you.
Facebook together,
But
so you can just Facebook message me because I'm also up really late. So you were mentioning how my editor was in the UK. I stay up till about 3 or 4 every day. That's my sleep schedule is I go to bed at 3 or 4 and I get up around noon. And I'm able to do that because I am disabled. So I can at least work on my own schedule. So 4 o'clock here isn't that late. Like 4 a.m. is like 12, what, 12 in UK or I don't know. But it wasn't late for her. It was late for
I
me
don't,
because she was always
yeah.
like, "Are you how
Um,
are you still up?" And I'm like, and we it was mostly email. Almost everything was email because she was really good at that. Editors are really good at emailing, which is great.
yeah. Yeah, like I mean, they would have to be the way I do my editing. Like, I get direct comments on. I use Google Docs, so
Yeah,
I
that's what she did
know
too. It
if
was
you use
great.
Word, yeah, I love it. And even if you see her, up there working on it, you could actually just watch her work. So that's
Yeah.
awesome. But yeah, um, the time, like you just said, night owls unite because I work from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. So I'm
Ooh,
up all night anyway. So
yeah.
I would be up all night even if I wasn't at work just because I'm a night owl. So I might as
Yeah.
well get paid while I'm up.
Yeah. Might as well.
All right. Um, I well, like I said, I told you before we started, I'm working on getting the Books of Horror YouTube channel up and running. This will be on there for people to catch anytime they want, and I will try and promote it and get it out there so that people can start watching these lives that I do with the
Mhm.
authors. Um, because I think it's just the coolest thing to hear everybody's story, where they're coming from, what they're working on, what they're excited about, and where they're going in the future with their things. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
all right,
see, look at I just added another book to my TBR after talking to you. It just
I
and so
know.
it begins.
I appreciate it.
But
I,
I
I
look
See, you're gonna shame me. I doubt it's on Ingram. Like I said, I only got 3 books out of all of them, but I need to get that on Ingram. There's one book that there's like a few books that I hold to the side for like live events only. That's a whole
Yeah.
different conversation. But yeah, there's like one that's a flip book. So like if you read it, you got to actually flip it, and then it's the story like that way, almost like the old Ace. They're sci-fi books, but Dean Koontz wrote a few of them. But they're Ace flip books, so you have to flip them over to read the second story of the book. So it's like
Yeah.
upside down if you flipped it that way, but if you flip it over like that. So books like that, I don't think Ingram would take kindly to, like having half the story upside down. They'll be like, we're not approving this. What are you doing? But yeah, so books like that, those are fun little stories. Anyway, they're short. They're like stretched out long stories, just so I can those are palate cleansers for me. So like
Yeah.
if I'm writing or just get done with something and I don't want to dive deep into something long again, I will just write a one-off with this certain character. It's a talking cat that only Satan can see because it's his pet cat. But um, I will write those stories because all cards are off the table. I can do anything I want to in that universe, and it will make sense because it's Satan's cat that talks to him.
It
So,
does.
yeah. So, yeah, I'll get on the Ingram. You've pressured me enough in this interview. I feel very pressured about the Ingram
I am
stuff.
not pressuring you. I am just saying that for the library side and for the bookseller side, it will
Yep.
make things better. But we've seen people in books of horror that they hustle, they do their own thing, and they're not in bookstores or they're not in many libraries or bookstores, and they're doing great. They
Yeah.
find communities online. So there's many ways to be successful. And I'm learning that now because I can't do in-person events, that they're less likely probably to bring in my book, which I understand. I'm still reaching out to them, and I have some library connections too, but I learned that early on of, you know, certain things are expected or needed to bring in a book and have it be something that they can consider. And I know that like having a regular discount, which is whatever it is, it's REG, it just says it's
Yeah.
usually 40% off for booksellers. It's probably higher for Barnes Noble and Amazon, but I don't know what that is. But in general, for bookstores, it's that. So a lot of indies I've seen, they either do 20 or 25 or 30. Some of them are as low as 15. And again, I'm not going to bring that in, but I'll list it on the website because I'm not going to make that much on it. But again, I want to get
Yeah.
that offer out there. And if I put it on my website and I can show it, that's awesome too. So today on Independent Bookstore Day, we're still going strong, and we'll have our sale going up until midnight. We got a lot of stuff on sale, and we have a lot of indies on there, and I'm getting more and more of my regular customers like, I've never heard of this author, or this book was great that you recommended. And it's like they would have never found it if it wasn't for my shop. So I am the story keeper. I
Yeah.
am the keeper of stories that I try to get into the hands of as many people as I can.
You are a hoarder and a peddler of
Mhm.
books of dead trees. So um, yes, on Independent Bookstore Day, please do go visit Death by TBR and
Deathbytbooks.com. Yes.
by tbrbooks.com. And if something is calling your name, you know what to do. Add it to the basket. Check out. All right.
All right.
Thank
Well, it
you,
was such a
Stephanie.
pleasure talking to you, and I will talk to you soon.
Absolutely.
Bye.